everybody, and welcome to the Matt and Steve Show. My name is Steve Schnee, and I'll be your co-host for this episode. We've got another great show for you, but before I say anything more, I'm going to hand the reins over to our host. He's the Matt in Matt and Steve. He's the only Matt that matters. And ladies and gentlemen, my good friend, Matthew Street.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Steve, my friend. And I have to say, before we introduce our very special guest who we're very honored to have with us today, Steve, I could not do this without you. I was thinking about it today and I said, I'm just some schlub who makes YouTube videos in my parents' basement, but you're a talented guy. You're actually like a pro. So I got to thank you publicly. You're like the man. You're like the extraordinaire, the music man, so to speak. So I got to thank you. Thank you, Steve.
Well, I appreciate that, but I'm actually just a schlub who lives in your parents' basement as well. So.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. And folks, first off, we have to thank from JEM Records, Marty Scott and Maureen Piatoso for setting this interview up. This is a very special interview to both of us. And so thank you to the two of them. We really appreciate this. And we have some very special guests today, folks. If you're a fan of great new rock and roll, psych rock, power pop, whatever you want to call it, I just call it fabulous music, then you're going to love our special guest today, because we have from the Gripweeds, we have the great singer, drummer. He's a multi-instrumentalist. He's a producer. He's an engineer. He picks up lunch. I don't know what else. He does everything. We have Kurt Reil. Kurt, thank you so much for being here. And along with Kurt, we have singer. She's a multi-instrumentalist. She plays flute and woodwinds. And I think I would also call her a co-producer perhaps, and co-engineer down there at the House of Vibe studio, because she does so much down there. Is Kristin, Pinell, Reil. Welcome, welcome. I got to tell you right off the top before we get going, I'm a fanboy, obviously. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. I'm not going to try to hide it. I'm not going to put it in the corner. It's here. I'm a Gripweeds fan, and I have been for a very, very long time, probably since the beginning, going all the way back to those first classic 4 albums, I like to call them.
Wow.
You guys really got big on Little Steven's Underground Garage, and you had the release on Wicked Cool Records with the here it is, Infinite Soul.
Infinite Soul.
Oh, I'm silly.
I don't remember it either. So,
but no, when that album came out, it just really put you. I mean, in my book, national. You guys just fabulous, fabulous band. I love you. I love the band, and thank you so much for being here. And this is a special occasion.
Room.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I got all the decorations out today.
Yeah.
We're here to celebrate, though, something very special. This band has put out so many great releases, but today we're celebrating the release of their brand new album, Dig, which is out on November 12th on JEM Records. And folks, this is a fabulous album. It has 14 tracks. It's going to be on vinyl and CD. However, there is a special deluxe double CD version with 11 additional tracks, 25 total tracks. I happen to have that copy right here, folks. So if you really want to dig into the Gripweeds, dig it with this one right here, the deluxe set, because this is the way to go if you want to get all 25 tracks. Highly, highly recommended. And what this band is doing, folks, is they're uncovering and rediscovering their roots with Dig. This is chock full of Gripweeds versions of nuggets, classic garage rock songs from the 60s. Although I must say, I think I did discover one on the deluxe disc that is from 1970, but I'll say the 60s. It's generally from the 1960s. So like I said, I'm a fan. And before we start and really get into Dig heavily and really dig deep into it, where are you both from originally? Let's get some background here. Where are you both from?
Ladies first.
I'm originally from Connecticut,
Okay.
just outside of Hartford. And I met the Gripweeds when I moved to New York City. And that's how we hooked up. I was getting a job and working and playing in a band. And so that's how we met in New York City.
Before we were married, she was a fan of the Gripweeds first.
A fan first before.
Before she became a band member and a wife and all the other good stuff.
No, but I'm from New England.
Well, I come from New Jersey, still live in New Jersey, but we're actually from a street away from where the Knickerbockers got their name.
Wow.
Oh, cool. Which
kind of northern New Jersey.
Which you did a track for this album, which I'm sure we'll talk about.
That's right.
Fabulous.
That's why I mentioned it.
So, were you both raised in musical families? I mean, going back to your beginnings, were your families musical? Parents, brothers, sisters?
My brothers and sisters were. That's where I got my early influences from. They all had all the great 60s records, and I was really little, come home from kindergarten and listen to all this stuff that they had. Like, they'd be at school and I'd steal their records and go listen to them all the time. But since I was a little kid, it was my brothers and sisters who really got me interested in this stuff.
I remember my parents got it really into FM radio in like around 69 or 70 or somewhere in that area. And they were starting to bring home some pretty cool records like the Moody Blues and stuff like that. And so I got some exposure to that stuff early on. And then me and my brother just kind of became a duo of, get a record and, where'd you get that? And, Beatles and the Who and all that stuff. And we just found it all. So, and my dad played piano. He was an amateur pianist, and he was very good. He wasn't going to go out and play any shows or anything, but he was very good.
Yeah, there was a couple of instruments hanging around our house, but no one really played anything. So I had to figure it out.
Yeah, you were on your own.
I was on my own.
So it sounds like that classic rock period was the period that really influenced the two of you to take up music as a profession, as a hobby, and form
It's a
bands.
long road, Matt. It's a long road. I mean, I remember as a kid, not going out to play football because Rick had the drum set in the house. So I would go and play the drums instead. And then we used to play like recording engineers. We would like set up the sound booth was the furnace room. And like I'd be on the drums and my friend would be recording me. And this is what we did when we were about 8 years old.
Yeah, most kids are.
And this is what I do now. I never stopped doing
I never knew that. We used to play recording engineers.
Yeah, and now I do it. I still play.
So how did the Gripweeds, let's get some foundation of the Gripweeds. We have your brother, we have Dave DeSantis, Rick Reil, also in this band. How did they all come together? How did this band form?
Well, Rick and I obviously were brothers, so we kind of had this shared musical thing, but we were both drummers for the longest time. We were drummers who played other instruments. And we realized if we wanted to play in a band where we had any sort of control, usually the drummer sits in the back. And we realized if we wanted to like make our own music, one of us had to switch. So Rick wound up switching. I even to this day, I'm kind of like, well, maybe I should have switched, but, but anyway.
But you both play drums.
Yeah, it worked out. It's pretty good. We both do both. But anyway, so that's kind of, we started to play together, because of the shared musical influences. And then we started trying to find players. And we were hanging out in New Brunswick because we both went to school at Rutgers. And we went to Jim Babjack from the Smithereens. He had a store, this record store / hangout. And we used to go in there, and he would turn us on to all kinds of music. He'd be like, "Hey, you heard this record by the Hollies?" He wound up lending me his entire Hollies record collection, which was very influential to the beginnings of the band. But anyway, we used to go there and we complained like we can't find any people. And he goes, "Oh, check this guy out on the wall over there. He's got a postcard." And so Jim kind of put us together with an early version of the Gripweeds. And then from there, we got another bass player and another bass player. And then Kristin joined, and that's when the whole thing kind of really came together.
Yeah, we were all kind of hanging out in the New York music scene. There was a lot of clubs that we used to go to, and we would just, hang out.
In the Village.
Yeah, in the Village, and see each other, and we'd start talking. And I realized that these guys liked the same kind of music I did. And I was really surprised that anybody knew what it was. And they were surprised that I knew what it was.
Yeah, imagine like this beautiful girl comes to your show. And after the show, she says, "I really like that Bird song you did." And we were like, "How do you know that?"
Yeah.
So that's how it all started.
And I handed Kurt a tape of my band. I said, "Oh, listen to these songs. There's some ones you might like." And he looks at this tape and he goes, "Oh, you have a song called Sporks."
Like, a spoon, a fork,
Forks, I
spork.
go.
You ever see that thing, the plastic thing? Like, that's an interesting title.
And I was like, no, it's Sparks by the Who. And so, we were just having a good time, hanging out, and one thing led to another. And
look where you've come. You've got like a total, correct me if I'm wrong, but like a total of like 13 albums.
Something like that.
Includes studio albums, live albums, a best of collection. You got a great Christmas album. You got rarities compilations, and you've been on 2 JEM Records compilation albums. I mean, the output of material you guys have put out there is amazing, and everything you put out knocks everyone out with their diversity. The music on it is just so diverse. You got rock and roll, psych rock, power pop, so many sounds, and every sound you seem to produce, in my opinion, is amazing. And that's something to be said about your great career you've had as a band. It's just a wonderful music.
Thank you.
Took a lot of years.
Go ahead. Yeah. You guys have worked so hard.
Yeah, it took a lot of years. We had to learn. It was learned by doing, and we did a lot of it ourselves. And one thing that really contributed to the amount of music that we've been able to make all these years, and how we keep moving forward, and it's because we're a family, because we have a lot of common goals and shared things outside the band. So we're very focused, and we have a balance between, our regular lives and the music, but it's all incorporated into one. Our recording studio is in our home, so
we sit on top of the House of Vibes. Yeah, it's right.
Yeah,
right at your house.
We sit on top of the studio, so we can, when we have the urge to make music, we just go right down and we can do it. And it took a lot of years, like you were saying. It took a pretty long learning curve to figure out how to do it all. And it was really because we had very early on, we didn't have good experiences in studios trying to work with other engineers. I think the fault was partially ours because we weren't that good.
We don't really know. How to get what you want at first.
Yeah.
And when you have your own studio, you learn how to get what you want. You can experiment.
Yeah, and the studio kind of tracked right alongside of the band in a parallel course of better equipment, more knowledge, working with other people, and more knowledge. And, eventually you get this experience. And I remember the first record we did, House of Vibes. And I remember we finished the mix. I was asking people, kind of going, is this any good? Did we do this okay? Is it all right? And now I feel much more confident. We're more like, hey, listen to this, and we know it's at a level. So we've grown as the studio has progressed.
And your studio also has garnered a fabulous reputation among so many other great artists. I mean, you record so many great people there, including the Smithereens, who you mentioned earlier. Fabulous stuff.
Yeah, well, that kind of folds right into it all, because the studio, when a band comes into the studio, I become the 5th member of the band. And you're initiated into their club. And if you've ever been with a band, there's all kinds of like inside stuff that goes on.
I would say to Kurt, it's like he should charge extra for the psychology and
psychiatry.
And he has to deal with all the calls he takes outside of the studio session.
Yeah, but you wind up being a 5th member. And the thing about it is that band might have some really cool, unique vision. They probably do for what they want to do. And they bring something to the studio. And I go, oh, that's a really good idea. It sparked in their session, but I go, yeah, I think I know what to do with that. And then I take that idea and I go, the next session that comes up could be the Gripweeds. I would go, I have another tool in my bag to pull out. And that's how it works. It's the shared knowledge of techniques of recording or ideas that you pass around. And that's the real strong thing about having a commercial studio as opposed to your own home studio. Because when you're at home by yourself, you don't necessarily have that interaction with a lot of different types of people and music. So that really gives us kind of an edge to, try different things and grow.
Plus, we always attract people that have the same kind of musical backgrounds and influences. I mean, this kind of sound that we have, especially after getting on the satellite radio, attracted a lot of people that wanted that kind of sound. So it's not like we're recording rap or other kinds of music like that. It's pretty much our genre.
I try to pick and choose my projects and not get into something where I'm either out of my depth or just into something I don't want to do. That's you. I've been very lucky to find projects that have always been interesting. Oh, we got a dog here.
Sorry
Yeah,
about that.
at first I thought it might be mine, but he's sleeping over there, so I know what's in her.
I thought it was I thought Matt was hungry and his stomach was growling.
I know.
I think she wants to be interviewed.
Oh, okay.
I think she wants to be on the interview.
We couldn't lock her out of the interview because she would just bark and scratch at the door.
Yeah, exactly.
I just caught
This
a
is
glimpse.
Arrow.
Oh, what a cutie. Arrow. Okay.
Arrow, me and my Arrow.
Is she
I was just going to say that.
pure breed or a mix? What do we got there?
She's a mix.
She's a year-old Husky Shepherd who's very, very strong-willed and really strong. Really strong. Drags me all over the place. So.
All right, now quiet down.
Get her tail doing a little tambourine in the studio or something.
Yeah,
That's an idea. See, everybody brings something to the mix.
That's
Don't be
right.
surprised if you see that.
She's got to pull her weight around there.
exactly.
Steve, did you have something? I thought you were gonna.
Well, do you like with each project that the Gripweeds do? Okay, I know that you're talking about how some of your work with other artists sort of informs maybe sort of new ideas. But when you say, okay, we're going to sit down, we're going to start a new project. Let's say, for example, Dig. Are you going to approach it at a different angle or different frame of mind than any of your previous releases? Do you try to make each album a little different, each album have their own personality while also retaining that Gripweeds charm?
Yeah.
Well, Dig was approached entirely different than anything we did before because we were all separated last year. And Kurt and I were at home with a full recording studio in our basement, and we had been talking about doing a covers record. So we had plenty of time and there was no clients. Everybody was, keeping their distance.
Right.
So we went down and started working, two of us, and we eventually, we would build things up and bring the other members in. They started recording remotely. Rick had a remote studio and he would do tracks, and Dave would come in periodically, but it was a lot. It was different than all our other records because we're usually in the room, all four of us.
Right.
Yeah.
When we start the record,
I think that the records have their own personality because they're snapshots in time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's real important. We don't continuously record here. We record, we finish a record, then
it's cyclical.
Then then other stuff comes up. Other bands come in, we do live work, we're doing this, we're doing that. And then we write enough songs to go in and record another album, by which time we've had enough life experience to, bring, work with those songs. And there's always a change. It's always different. Some other ideas have come in. The songs ultimately dictate what the recording is going to be like. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you write songs that reflect what's going on in your life. And that might be up or down, depending on the circumstances of your life. In this case, it was covers, and that happened because of the pandemic.
Dig was a result of the pandemic, or were you thinking about it even before that?
Yeah, we had been talking about it before, and if we were going to do an original album, we couldn't do it being apart from each other because there's too many things that have to be worked out, and you're playing off each other and ideas are developing. We don't want to just send files back and forth to each other. That's not a band.
I feel we think it's like, the contact of the musicians. When you get together in a room, it's just chemistry. When you get together in a room, a spark happens.
Something different always happens than you'd expect.
A spark happens, and you get a third thing that comes out of it. I might have an idea. Kristin might have an idea. If she went into the studio alone, it would sound one way. If I went into the studio alone, it would sound another way. But when we both work together, when we go, hey, that's a good lead, but if you put this note at the end, it might really do something. And she would go, oh yeah. And then it goes back and forth. And all of a sudden you have this third creation that is the product of the, you know, the chemistry of the whoever's in the room. And that's what we were afraid, or not afraid, but didn't want to develop songs that the others hadn't ever heard.
Right.
Without them being there. It's not just like, this is one thing having us on Zoom, but it's different when you're in the room and you're working on what's essentially your baby, which is your music.
Yeah.
Plus, a lot of the songs
hard to
would be
do.
developed, like we would just jam and rehearse them and try things out just live.
Right.
We have a studio room we can play in downstairs too. And that's how a
Yeah.
lot of the ideas we come up with them, and we couldn't do that.
We actually did record a few. We started with some basic tracks for a few of the songs, and we quickly realized that a couple of the original songs, and we quickly realized that this project will be a lot more fun in
Right.
this kind of dark time that the whole world was going through. If it would be more fun to take on this project, which we had talked about, but it wasn't like, oh, we're going to go down there and work on this album. It kind of, you know, organically came together because of the circumstances, you know. And then it just, we realized, with a little bit of help from Marty from JEM Records, who said, you know, I want it to be all covers, and, you know, this is the way we should do it. And we're like, yeah, I get that. I see that. So
Yeah, it's kind of
it
weird
all
to-
got formed.
from our point of view, being original band, it's kind of weird to do a covers record. I mean, we really trusted each other that we would come up with some cool stuff, but you know, you're trying to make someone's material and their original idea. You want it to be better. You want it to be something
Or different.
special, different or better. You know, you want to be proud of it. You don't want to,
Wow.
and sometimes you're not really sure that that's going to happen.
You don't want to, you know, it's
So
like
you
if
work on it.
you don't want to
Right.
pour water into somebody's beer.
Now, was there something that you told each other or yourselves when going in and doing these covers? Okay, this is what we're not going to do.
Yeah, I would say so. I think we sort of realized early on that a carbon copy of a cover of another band's recording is not that interesting. And
Mhm.
we thought, you know,
It's already been done.
it's already been done.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
who wants
Yeah.
to listen to essentially a retread? So we realized, as an original band with our own kind of vibe and aesthetic, that we need to imprint that. That's the most important thing we could do, is bring something of our own to this new creation, this new
Mhm.
recording, that will make the song come alive again, make it genuine, real, and interesting to listen to. And so those are always the, you know, the parameters that we're, you know, interested in pursuing.
Yeah.
You know,
You absolutely did that on this release too. I was amazed at the unique song choices you made for Dig. I mean, as you look at the primary LP and even the bonus LP, I mean, you have nugget type songs by not just well-known artists. I'm talking like Paul Revere and the Raiders, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, the Byrds, the Zombies, the Moody Blues, Turtles, Cream, Monkeys. Trying to think of, okay, so you got these many great well-known, you got these great well-known artists, but
You're
what
really
really
good.
blew me away about this release is that you've got the real deep nuggets on this by deep artists. I'm talking Max Frost and the
Creation.
Troopers, Nico and the Velvet Underground, people have heard of, but then you got like a band called Frosty, the Squires, and
Yeah.
the Nightcrawlers, to name a few. I mean, how did you decide which songs you would record for Dig? I mean, did each member
The
vote?
list
Did you all
was
take a vote,
Yeah.
or how did you do that?
Well, first we realized the
Figured it out.
first thing was we wanted to make this a cohesive collection. So the idea of like, oh, just pick your favorite covers from any era, that we wanted to do something that was kind of cohesive and would be tight. And so that we kind of we realized we were going to focus on the Nuggets era.
But we
kind of.
wanted
Mhm.
everybody to pick some songs that they wanted to do that were really special to them, as long as it was in, you know,
in the wheelhouse.
in the wheelhouse. But
Yeah.
everybody picked some songs they wanted to do, and then the rest were kind of done by committee, and Marty at JEM threw in his 2 cents. And
But I think really the ultimate arbiter was, you know, how well we thought we could do with them. You know, you can pick something like Hey Jude is a good example. That would be a song I would run from to record.
Right.
I love that song, and there's no way in my mind's eye that I could ever come close to approximating, bettering, whatever adjective you want to use, to that recording. There's certain songs that should not be redone, but there's a lot of those nugget songs that
they were recorded. They were recorded
fast,
cheaply, and they sounded that way. But they had an energy and a fire. But we were able to like bring in a really good sound to those songs.
That was kind of the idea. It was like, you know, you had these songs that were budget. They were bands that really didn't get a lot of budget from their recording label.
Yeah.
So it was like, you know, this is a chance to kind of bring the song back into this universe, the 21st century. And there's so much creativity on a lot of that stuff. And it's locked into this little thing that sounds like a tin can, you know? So our thought was like, wow, we can actually bring this into the modern world and our own world. And, you know, it's kind of doing a service for the music to expose it again.
It's not like we wanted to overproduce it or work it to death, but in our studio, we have a lot of vintage 60s equipment. We have the equipment that this stuff was recorded with. So we were able to, but we have better recording equipment probably than they did.
Yeah, but I don't think we were making like curios. We weren't trying to go, oh, we're going to be exactly like 1966.
No, we're not like that. We just play, and if something comes out cool and somebody likes it, we all jump on it and go, yeah, that was great.
From my perspective, sitting in between the two speakers in the control room, trying to make whatever piece of music we're working on into a record with a capital R. That's the job. And you take whatever the song is, and somehow you've got to make it stand up and make it do something interesting to keep a listener, you know, interested. And that's really what it comes down to. How can we make this thing compelling? And it's that way is what we do, song after song. That's the approach we took on Dig, is how can we make this compelling? And
it's like he said, it's like it's making a record. That's the key of what goes on here. We're making records. We're not really we're capturing usually a live basic track, but then we're making a record. We're pulling out bits and pieces with different instruments to make things stand out on the tracks and go in and out, so the listener can really catch something. And maybe those original recordings, they had an overall really great vibe, but they didn't have the intricacies that we were able to give them. And it's not like we're trying to overwork this stuff, because a lot of this stuff's real high energy. It's real fun to play, and you certainly don't want to sound like an overproduced band. Well, you know, we fell into some of these tracks originally on Dig Deluxe, the deluxe edition. The second disc is the deluxe additional 11 songs that we added to it.
Was it easy or hard to decide which ones would make the primary 14-track one and which ones would be on the deluxe?
Well, the second deluxe, the second CD of the deluxe edition has a whole other story.
Yeah, but to answer your question, I sat with Marty Scott and we sequenced the disc. We sequenced the album, and it was basically tough decisions to go, this is in, this is out. Yeah. And we wound up with the 14 songs that Marty and I could agree on. And then we had a whole bunch left over, and it was like, okay, what are we going to do with these? And that's when the idea was mooted for Dig Deluxe. But then the question became, how do we get enough songs together to make a full second disc of material? And that is what you can talk about.
Oh, well, what was really cool is earlier in the year, or perhaps a year before Dig, we had worked with an artist, his name was Rob Seal, and he purposely hired us to produce and play on his record. We did everything. He sang and he played guitars and things, but he basically brought it to the Gripweeds. He was a big fan and said, you know, work on my record with me, please. So we did.
But his record was covers, and he picked the songs that he wanted the Gripweeds to play.
He did songs that he knew we would like.
So he chose the Squires, Going All the Way,
And the
Oh,
Porpoise.
wow.
Porpoise song. And he chose a bunch of songs for us to do. And we did these backing tracks for him. And I produced him and put his vocals on.
And
We did some backing
and
vocals.
he sang lead on all of them. And then we were saying, wow, these are such great tracks. It would be great if we could put them out.
So that's where the idea came.
We would sing them instead.
Once we knew that we were doing Dig Deluxe and we needed more material, and we're like, we had those 5. Actually, there was more than that he put out. The album he put out was called Reviberation.
Mhm.
And there were more songs on it, but we chose the batch that would best suit the Dig concept. And there were 5 of them, and we thought, if we put our own lead vocals to them and remix them, then we have, it's us playing. So
Yeah.
they're right in there, and we're proud of them to begin with, but now we can make them actual Gripweed songs.
Mm.
So that's how those came about. The extra,
I think
it was 5 of them.
Mm.
that
Did
we
you end
added.
up telling him you were doing that?
Oh yeah,
Oh, of
absolutely.
course.
Okay.
Of course.
It'd be funny if he just found out with this interview.
No. He gave us.
Oh, by the way.
Oh, he gave us his blessing. He's a great fan and a great friend.
Yeah.
And we love each other's music, and so we were really happy that he was generous enough to say, "Oh, go for it." He would love us to sing on these tracks. So
Rob is a Gripweeds fan. And so, he was just overjoyed that we worked with him in the first place. And he was like, I'm flattered that you want to use these songs. Please go ahead. So it was good. It worked out.
I mean, we worked really hard on them. For him.
Right.
Right. Hey, can either of you share maybe a couple of favorites on the Dig album? Personal favorites?
On the main Dig album or the Dig Deluxe?
It could be any of the 25 tracks. What are your favorites? Let's hear some favorites.
Well, here's a question before you choose your favorites. When you decided to do the second disc in the deluxe, was that an issue putting together? I would assume that you created a track list and made it a complete separate album and just didn't throw these songs together. It's its own beast.
Yeah. As I said before, Marty and Nick sequenced the first disc, the first album, the main album. And we had a bunch of leftover songs, and they were we considered them casualties because they didn't have a home. And we're like, we had a real dust up over.
There was one song we did have.
Organ Grinder's Monkey was the one by Frosty. That was the song that I felt maybe the most strongly about. And it turns out the rest of the band felt that way.
We wanted it on the main record, but Marty
I
totally
couldn't fight Marty.
it.
I just couldn't fight him on it. And so when it came to the second disc and Marty starts going, well, we're going to put I Had Too Much to Dream first. And I said, Marty, stop right there. Organ Grinder's Monkey, the song that you don't like or that you didn't want on the album, is number 1. And he said, all right, you deserve that. Go ahead and sequence the second album.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
I would say my favorite, sorry, Marty, Organ Grinder's Monkey, followed by probably Shape of Things to Come, just because it's
The
that
first
Shape
single.
of Things to Come is like 2 minutes long. It does everything. And the other thing about that song, and I don't know if you guys know about this, but there is a third disc. Do you guys know about the third disc?
Oh, no, I haven't.
Well, the third disc is called A Deeper Dig.
Ooh.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
That looks
Oh,
cool.
is it upside down? No, it's right.
No, it's right.
Okay. It's a third disc. And the third disc is only available on gripweeds.com from our Artist Direct online store. And the third disc has on it the very first thing the Gripweeds ever recorded. And the very first thing the Gripweeds recorded was Shape of Things to Come.
Wow.
Right.
So we have the album, this third disc kicks off. Actually,
it sounded much different
With that
It
original
kicks off
recording. Wow.
it kicks off with, we took the deep dig basically and went way deep into the house.
Yeah,
of
like
Odyssey.
there's early, this was way before I was even in the band. There's early
wow,
club
really?
recordings. There's they're recording in their mother's living room. I don't know.
No. It was recorded in the rehearsal room at the time.
But it's the really early stuff. And plus also on that Deeper Dig is there's some, they call them TV mixes. There's mixes of some of the songs without the vocals. So you can really hear the vocals in the instruments.
You guys like the Beach Boys, right?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
You know the album Stack of Tracks?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, so you got the instrumentals, and then
And you get the vocals isolated.
then you get the vocals on a separate track.
Yeah.
We kind of did a Stack of Tracks treatment where, for instance, Lady Friend, the Bird song.
Yeah.
We give you the instrumental mix, and then we give you the vocals only, so you can hear all the nuances and stuff. And there's a lot of them, and we did that on a few of the tracks just to really illustrate.
Awesome.
You know, you hear things when you take away the vocals. You hear things in the track you didn't know were there. You know.
Oh yeah. Well, before we move on or talking more, how can the viewers get a copy of that? What is the band's website?
Gripweeds.com.
Yeah, gripweeds.com. We got a great website. Come on by and check stuff
Yeah,
out.
you can get a lot
It's
of goodies,
simple.
CDs, you can get vinyl, everything's over
We
there.
got t-shirts,
Hats, everything.
Yeah, I mean, we're really we're excited by the third disc just because it goes, you know, in a project that, you know, Dig is like a musical excavation. It's like we're digging into our history.
Yeah.
Oh, what's
Our
also
roots.
cool with the Deeper Dig is we've been working on this whole online booklet that you get that has all kinds of interviews and pictures from the early bands. So it's also an extra cool.
Yeah,
bonus.
well, we went through and we did a pretty exhaustive, research to get who played what on each track of this new album. That's 25 songs. Who played what guitar through what amp, and
It's
who
crazy.
sung.
Wow.
Oh,
You know, so
geez.
it's like we
That's
did
a lot of work, yeah.
A lot of sort of research to make sure we got all this information before it disappeared from our brains, you know,
Mhm.
quickly. It's always
Yeah.
work right when the project
It
is
was so
done.
much to
that you
put
can
together.
do it.
It's a little crazy.
And then we
Yeah.
talk about we kind of rap about each song. Each member talks about like, oh, we did this one. Like Louie Go Home is an example. That's a song that each of these songs on the album has a history unto itself. They were chosen for specific reasons.
Mhm.
I don't know if you want to talk about any songs.
One of my favorites on the album is the one, am I pronouncing the band right? The Gants, I Wonder.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
that's
yeah.
my favorite. That's my favorite on this album, and I'm
Oh,
so happy you
I'm glad to
included
hear
it.
that.
Love
I
it,
was like,
love it, love
I
it.
was really, really proud of my 12-string work on that. I worked really hard on all that interweaving stuff and the vocals, harmonies, Kurt's vocal.
That track had a sort of a journey that it took. It started out, again, using our sort of mission statement that we weren't going to retread these songs.
Mhm.
We were going to find our own way into them. That's an example of, having worked with the Smithereens, for instance. And I just somehow with that song, I had Pat Denizio's voice in my head.
Mm.
How would he have sung this? And I just sort of applied almost in my own mind what they might do, having worked with them for so long and known them for so long. So that was the initial impetus, was me and an acoustic guitar kind of blocking this out. How do we want this to go in our own way? And then what winds up happening is in the studio, that vision gets added to, and you kind of go, what does this song need to really sparkle? And the first thing I think of when I think of sparkle is 12-string. That just comes to
Yeah.
mind. Chime.
That
Yeah.
is like such a perfect pop song.
Yeah.
And it's got simple chords, but you can chime in arpeggio on the
Yeah.
guitar. And it was it's so melodic.
So then it was like we had this kind of intro and a quiet section, and again sitting there at the control room going, what does this need? And also I should add Marty Scott from JEM Records like this on my back going, get it done, and it's gotta be great. And so I've got this voice in my head going, it's gotta be great, and I'm going, it's gotta be great. And
yeah,
that's
we were
where,
trying to figure out what to do with the vocals. on
in the 60s, I think especially, but probably, in the 70s, 80s too, there was that thing of how do we get on the radio with this thing? How do we make this so irresistible? It's just going to fly up the charts when we put it out on KHJ in LA, or whatever. you know, and that's the yardstick. And the Beatles is probably the answer to, like, how do we make a record that's going to compete with Strawberry Fields or Penny Lane or Hey Jude or something? How do you do it? Well, you know, it's just sheer nerve and creativity and innovation. You just go, what can I do to this thing to make it stand on its head? So we got this idea of vocals flying around. And that's how we start the song, with these kind of angelic harmonies. And I think we were kind of channeling like Simon and Garfunkel.
Yeah, so that's like a Gripweed's harmony, Black Harmonies, Rick, Kurt, and I.
And then what happened in the middle, we took this kind of plodding, you know, breakdown section, and we took out everything like Sloop John B. And it was just all voices. And that all of a sudden, I got it. It was like, okay, we got a record now. Yeah. And a record with a capital R, meaning this can be a single. You know?
Right.
Yeah. Now, I got to ask one thing now, Kristin, from what my ears tell me, correct me if I'm wrong, you're singing lead on at least 5 songs on this complete collection.
Is that right?
And I believe one is a duet between you and Kurt on the Marmalade song, I See the Rain.
Oh, yeah, I See the Rain.
Was it fun? Was it fun for you to take center stage on so many tracks? And did you select those 5 tracks you were taking lead vocal on, or were they presented to you? How did that work?
Well, there was a couple of songs that I had picked that I wanted to sing on. The Porpoise song.
I count 6, by the way. There's 6.
The Porpoise song. And
I'm missing one.
There's 6.
And All Tomorrow's Parties, the Velvet Underground song. And when we did the Marmalade song, which is a duet between Kurt and I, a lot of different artists have done that song, like Susanna Hoffs and Matthew Sweet have done it. It's been done by a lot of people, but it was kind of in our repertoire. We have been doing it on and off for years, just kind of like when we'd sing with guitars. So this was the first time we decided to try to make a record of the song, but it's you know, it's good to do. It's nice to do a duet. We don't have too many of those.
I think mostly the song I Love You has the duet quality where we're trading off. And that song, you know, was you know, that happened just because a friend of mine actually heard this and said, it sounds like 2 people talking to each other, but they're not, they can't talk to each other. They don't know how to say I love you, but they're talking. You know, it's like a conversation that people can't have.
Right.
It's an interesting concept, really.
Right. That was the one I missed. It was I Love You by the Zombies.
Yeah,
that was the 6th one, because I See the Rain, she's on All Tomorrow's Parties, Twilight Time, Porpoise Song, and Little Black Egg, which is very cool by the Nightcrawlers.
Well, Little
very
Black
cool.
Egg,
that was a song we used to do all the time.
And Rick used to sing.
Yeah, we used to do it when we had acoustic shows. I never knew what the heck that song was. I was like, what is this? It's just such a weird little cute. It's cute. It's weird little cute.
There were a few songs like that one and Child of the Moon that we used to do specifically in an acoustic format. We wouldn't ever play them electrically. We just have fun with them, kind of like with acoustic guitars and bongos and whatever. And like Little Black Egg was one, and that was added to the album along with I Love You. And well, it was originally on the main album, but it got bounced to the deluxe.
To the deluxe,
Yeah,
yeah.
But that and Child of the Moon and I Love You were added in for balance to make the album flow, because there's a lot of rock stuff, and we had this kind of, it was nice to have acoustic, simple tracks without a lot of drums, without a lot of complication. And so, like I said, well, then
I should mention Child of the Moon is the great Rolling Stones flip side of Jumpin' Jack Flash. Great nugget of the Rolling Stones. Great song. Yeah.
Now again, we didn't want to do it the way they did it. We wanted to kind of reimagine it, and that helped when it was put in an acoustic, setting. It right off the bat, it changed the song immensely.
Yeah, I think that's one of my favorites. Has a real mojo.
It's a great way to close that first disc too.
We were like, that was a song that we had played going back to the 90s. As I said, we were doing acoustic sets, and that was one of them. But we changed some vocals around. Like I used to sing Child of the Moon, but I never felt comfortable with it, so we gave it to Rick. And then Rick used to sing Little Black Egg, but we went with Little Black Egg, we were going for kind of a, for lack of a better word, almost humorous, just kind of fun. I'll say fun. We're going for a real fun angle on Little Black Eggs. It's almost like a childlike song. And we thought, well, Kristen's got this kind of childlike voice and very innocent. So we thought to have her sing it. And so the vocals kind of got switched around on some songs, and we tried different singers. And that's what eventually, what you hear is what we settled on.
Now, who designed the cover for Dig? I think it's fantastic. I love the.
Thank you. Thank you.
Kurt's our main artist here, but we all work on the stuff. We all come up with ideas.
Yeah, you know, it's very similar graphic design. I got into doing graphic art because we needed it done. And we actually had a pretty talented graphic artist, was our fourth bass player, Mick Hargraves, who's on the House of Vibes album. And he used to do a lot of graphic design. He left the band, and I kind of thought, well, I got to take up the slack here.
This cover is actual, it's an actual picture. It's not like a Photoshop. Well, the band, this is a mine in New Jersey, in Northwest Jersey, called the Sterling Mines. And Kurt and Marty and our friend Mitch went out there and shot pictures one afternoon. And it's interesting because when you shine light on some of these rocks, they turn all these fluorescent colors. And it's kind of a well-known place in New Jersey. And we saw some pictures of it. We're like, hey, let's shoot that.
Yeah, well, what happened was we were sort of looking around for cover ideas. And I just, by happenstance, I saw this post on Facebook of Sterling Hill Mining Museum. And it was like, you know, they showed some pictures like, wow, psychedelic rocks.
Are they still
Dig psychedelic rocks? That's it.
Yeah, they were more than happy to have us come by.
I called Marty Scott and said, you know, I think I got an idea for a cover. We just have to go there and shoot it, though. I'm not going to rip something off the internet. So he goes, all right, I'll call you back. And literally 5 minutes later, he goes, okay, I hooked it all up. They're closed for the pandemic, but they're going to let you in. You can get whatever you need. And so we wound up shooting.
So they went into the caves, deep into the caves.
So then I had this
shot pictures.
Yeah. So then I just had this idea, like if you look at the cover here, this is the vinyl, by the way.
Nice.
If you look at the cover, you know, you've got this kind of cross section of the stratum, you know, and the sky up here. And I had this vision of people tunneling down and going down here to play, you know, so that's what this kind of represents, is like this dig, you know, it's like Journey to the Center of the Earth.
Awesome.
We just had this cool picture we put in the back.
I love that.
It's kind of going for like a retro vibe with
retro.
that, you know.
No, absolutely.
So yeah,
so I'd be remiss if I didn't ask about one particular song, because I know Steve loves the Beatles, and I'm a Beatles fanatic since I was a little kid. It's Only Love by Lennon McCartney. That
was another one that Rob Seal brought in, and but there's an example. This is an example of how we kind of worked the project, or produced his record, I should say. He came in and said, well, I did the songs I wanted to do with the band, but I'd like to do this one acoustically. So he comes and he's playing It's Only Love, and like, you know, that's good, but I hear another arrangement. And so I started out with the drums, and we built it up, and Kristin and I worked pretty hard on the guitar sound.
It's got this really atmospheric echo guitar.
And then when we brought it to the Gripweeds, we re-sang it and added the Reil Brothers harmonies, pretty much. Rick and I sang together in kind of, you know, both singing the same line, which I guess John and Paul used to do a lot. So it was fun to do that song, and it was uncomplicated, which was kind of nice. So, and I felt like when we were done with it, that we did something different than the Beatles had done. It goes and hits different notes than what they had done originally.
Yeah, I felt really bad for years and years and years loving that song, and then reading that was John Lennon's least favorite song that he wrote. And it's like, I'm going,
he's got to have one, you know.
Yeah.
With all those songs, you know.
Yeah, I love it too. I mean, he likes Revolution 9 better than that.
Yeah, right.
You know?
I don't think you want to go too far into the specifics of why.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But I must say,
you know, and Lennon was pretty much, he would make a lot of rash judgments, and
he would say things and then change his mind.
He wasn't right about it sometimes, but he was passionate.
Absolutely.
Well, I just want to say I can't thank you enough for sharing your music with us over all these years. And Dig is certainly a fine addition to your catalog. It's just a wonderful album.
Thank you.
It's something I truly truly have enjoyed listening to.
I'm really glad. You never know. Like, we put these things out and you never know what's going to happen. You really don't, and how it's going to be received. And so far, we've been it's been very well received so far, even though a lot of people haven't heard it. But it's
Yeah, well, I know
great.
the first song is getting a lot of airplay on like Underground Garage and Sirius XM. Shape of Things to Come is a great little lead off track.
Yeah, I
awesome.
thought so too. That's why it's #1, and it just kind of encapsulates a lot of the vibe of the album. And that was one that we had done first as a band, way back.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so to come back to that song with our wisdom and our experience from 2020 and 2021,
Absolutely.
and to be able to tackle that song again with the years of experience we have in the studio and turn that into a record, for us, that's really satisfying.
Yeah, and I think it's a wonderful thing that the Gripweeds have been around for quite a while, and at the core they're always the Gripweeds, but on the outside there's always something changing, something evolving. And also your audience changes and evolves with you. You've got the alternative rock people, you've got the power pop people, and the important thing is the people that were there with you at the beginning are still there today, and you've just managed to keep picking up these people because of the fact that you aren't just putting out the same thing over and over again. You're reaching people in new and exciting ways with every release. And Dig, of course, is probably for a lot of people, it might be their gateway album, and it might be they're going to come in while you're looking at your past on this new album. They're going to hear your new album and then start looking at your past by going back through your catalog.
Yeah,
I like that.
That's very good.
Yeah.
I was kind of thinking about this record, and I was thinking, wow, we've come full circle,
Mhm.
but we didn't come quite. It's not a circle; it's a spiral. So we started it there, and we're probably up here now. We might be at the same point, but we're a lot higher up. So we're looking at our past, but we brought our past into the present.
Yeah, it's a gateway
Yeah.
for our past, but it's a gateway for other people.
Yeah, we wanted to make this
Exactly.
album very much fresh and part of our vibe of who we are, and that was really, that was part of the mission statement for the album.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah, thanks. Was not to
You
be,
sure
we
did.
didn't want to make this just a, kind of a throwback thing, although there are aspects of it.
No, it sounds so fresh. It sounds so vital,
thank
so
you.
relevant. It's
Thank
not
you.
like it's an oldies album. This sounds fresh and new. This is, somebody who didn't
We
know,
did it!
somebody who doesn't know where these songs came from, or like a younger person who's never heard the originals. They're gonna think this is just brand new rock and roll, in my opinion.
Anyway, that's it for the Matt and Steve show. We appreciate the Gripweeds for stopping by to promote their brand spanking new album called Dig, available on JEM Records. I think Mr. Matthew Street, whichever side he's on, I can never figure that out on the internet. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you next time on the Matt and Steve show. Goodbye, everybody.
Let the whole world